So we're now live now. Hello, everyone. Just gonna see. We have a couple of viewers. Uh, Hi, Matt. Happy to have you there. And hi, everyone. Just to start, I'm gonna reintroduce myself. So I'm Munir Nijai. I'm the CEO and founder of Cesium. We're a Salesforce ISV partner, and today we have an app exchange that allows you to push audiences to TikTok ads from Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And my guest today is Matt Robison, the CTO and founder of Lightbox Logic. And well, I'll let you, Matt, introduce yourself.
Hi, and thanks for having me. And excited to
Thank
be
you.
here. And in a similar place to you, Matt Robison, and as mentioned, the CTO and founder of Lightbox Logic. So recently, probably about last year and a half, we've been an ISV partner at with Salesforce with an app exchange product. Prior to that 20 years, getting too long now in the IT software development architecture space, and about 7 years in the Salesforce ecosystem. And yeah, happy to be here and talk all things Salesforce.
Great. Yeah, you said it, 7 years. So my first question to you, Matt, I always ask this. How did you end up in the Salesforce ecosystem? What's your story?
There's always a story, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't an accidental one like some people are. I was actually like an intentional one. But I'd been part of a startup and then acquired into a large public US company, and they ran Salesforce. So through that, I use Salesforce managing services teams and usual case management and everything like managing products. And I found it terrible. and someone along the way told me that, Salesforce is a good product and there actually is
And you
a
didn't believe
great
them.
career path. Like, not at the time. It was classic, and it was 1,000 pages to do anything to do with, booking a service agreement. And it was particularly painful experience and reporting. Anyway, we all know some of those orgs and experiences, but
So you began on the core platform.
correct. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started in the CRM core side of the world. At those points, I knew of Exact Target actually. Interestingly, through my startup years of about 10 years, we built a online cross media marketing platform, and that was kind of one of our products, which did emails, SMSs, kind of through the 2000s. So it was kind of ahead of its time in what it could do, and that was part of the acquisition. So Exact Target, although I'd love to say we were a competitor to them. We were much smaller in those days, but I knew of them because they had similar capabilities and things like that. So, and obviously Salesforce acquired them in a similar time to actually when I was coming to the world. So, but I certainly came into the core and CRM world, is where kind of my first experiences of Salesforce as a customer using the platform was.
Okay.
And that kind of thing, yeah.
And so that's interesting what you said about building a competitor to Exact Target. Um, I wouldn't agree with you because when Salesforce bought Exact Target, honestly, without trashing, but it was more like an emailing platform. There was no journey builder. It was not really convenient to segment there. Not saying it's easy now, but at, at this time it was a bit harder. And yeah, so it was it for me what drove this acquisition. I don't know if you'd agree with this. Was more the Pardot side of it because I think 6 months before Exact Target bought Pardot, and I think Salesforce was more interested in Pardot in the early days than Exact Target, which came like a side uh, a side
It
gift
all,
or
I think it almost came free, didn't it? Although it was back
yeah,
then,
something like this.
it was a big acquisition for them back in those days. But when you look at the more recent ones, it seems like it was a tiny piece of acquisition. But I think it was certainly one of their more successful and profitable ones over the years in terms of what it became and what it's done for them.
Yeah, of course. When you see the revenue on Slack versus what they paid today, it's not like I think they paid like something like 1 billion for exact target slash Pardot, and they get something like between 4 and 5 billion ARR on this. So yeah, yeah, they obviously had a great acquisition there. So when did you come to the marketing side? I'd say the dark side of, of Salesforce.
Yeah, it's a good question, and my journey is probably slightly different in because my experience started from the core CRM side. So once as a customer, I actually left and went after a career in Salesforce from a core perspective. So I left the company I was at, I retrained myself and kind of came in from a core CRM. The first customer I landed in had Salesforce, but they also had Marketing Cloud. Now, my experience became very quickly because I had a long development history. And often in the Marketing Cloud space, they don't have the developers to do cloud pages and AMP script and these things. So, very quickly, although I was on the core CRM side, they were like, Matt, do you think you could learn some of this and help me over here? So, quite quickly, I was doing projects on both sides from a CRM and the Marketing Cloud side.
Yeah, funny thing. At first you come there and you see the demos and it's all drag and drop and yeah, we need developers for what again? But yeah, okay. So you started and yeah, so your story is between the core and marketing cloud. Maybe that's why you started working on a product between them.
I don't think it's by magic that this has ended up happening because right from the start, I think the interesting thing was the customer. One of their first big projects that they rolled out while I was there was a large marketing cloud. I call it a re-implementation because it was to leverage it far more and from a scalable perspective. And I was involved in that from both sides. How that full custom preferences, managing CRM, custom preference centers. So it's scaling up the way that they were using the product. So very early on, I got a lot of experience. There was a big SI in there, a lot of teams. It was a large project. So I very quickly got a view of one, the scale and the size of what these projects can look like. And two, I think I got a very good technical view of how these platforms should work together. And then it kind of became from there, every customer I went at, because I've generally been in the enterprise customers. So they're all, financial services, banks, and things like that. And generally, they all also have Marketing Cloud as core. So I would I was a senior architect in this core Salesforce world, but everywhere I'd go, Marketing Cloud would always be there. It's always a challenge of how are we going to make these work, these use cases. So I think my whole Salesforce journey, I've always had, an architectural role that has had both Salesforce core CRM and Marketing Cloud. So always having to solve those same challenges, which
Yeah.
obviously,
That's funny about your story because you know when I started on Salesforce Marketing Cloud, I think the first year um, started training on this platform, and I came from a company where we were working a lot at that time on DMPs, and I was like all about third party, and I saw this product at that time, Advertising Studio, and I think when I was doing demos, I think the first thing that I liked about this platform was this open window on ads and first party ads and well at that time people didn't really get it and I was the only one excited about this but yeah some way it's never really by chance that we end up doing what we do. um, Before jumping into your product, I just wanted, I see you posting a lot these days about data cloud. Um, and yeah, if what do you think about the current Salesforce vision, where they're going? all this stuff about data, AI, and trust. Say, uh, where do you see this going? What do you think of it, and what do you think the Salesforce ecosystem will look like within the 2, 3 next years?
I think it's an exciting time. I do like Data Cloud. I do like the position. I think there's evolutions it still needs to go through in its maturity model, but I think it's a very timely thing that I think Salesforce almost accidentally landed with Data Cloud, and then this whole AI thing with LLMs and all these landed, and they were like, it's almost pivoted from CDP, marketing CDP to, oh, now it's our large data platform, and now we've got AI. So I think if they didn't have Data Cloud, I think they'd be in a little bit of trouble of what their positioning would be with AI landing where it has. But I think they kind of got a little bit lucky having this large data platform they put in place. So they've got a good narrative around what the platform's there for, AI combined with the marketing space. So
So that, yeah, that's interesting what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with you. They can't do any AI use case if they don't have a strong data foundation. So, yeah, they need it. And as you said, by accident, some way they have something which can support their AI use cases, or which will be able. Depends on the use cases, I think, but on the other hand, you can see that they changed names frequently. So we went from Customer 360 audiences to CDP to Data Cloud. And
you forgot Genie.
yeah, I always forgot this rabbit. And and yeah, the point is, you can feel like they know they need it, uh, but they can't. Sometimes I feel like they can't really define it easily. You know, I made a post yesterday, and it was quite funny. I'm just asking for people to give their definition of what is Salesforce Data Cloud in 3 words. And what I noticed in comments, which made me laugh, is that you have all the set of Salesforce AEs, which give definitions around activation, which for me is a weakness of Data Cloud because they're not strong on activation yet. And you have all the set of consultants that give definitions around data. And you can feel also by the answers that the definitions of the consultant depend on at which time they onboarded on Data Cloud. So you have the guys onboarding now, and they're all about AI foundations, and you have the guys onboarded like last like 18 months ago, and they're all about harmonization, and you see the different layers. And talking about positioning, so my question for you here is, how would you define it today, and what is it for you? Why is it important if you had to deep dive?
Yeah, and I think you hit a big thing that I think Salesforce is struggling with the platform is defining what it what it's there to actually do, and not just it can harmonize data, it can bring data in, it can activate. It's what is the business value that it can bring to organizations, and I don't think they're doing a particularly good job. I think they're pivoting around. I think they're trying to throw things on the wall to work out what sticks and goes. Do people resonate with this? Or AEs don't quite know what they're selling. They're trying to put it into every deal, and they've kind of got a piece of technology that they've built, and I think it's their first for a long time really large piece of technology that they have internally built themselves, not through an
Yeah.
acquisition, and that's a good thing. Right? So they've done a lot of good work, but they're struggling. They definitely started struggling to position it. And interestingly, I come from, again, a slightly skewed world to where it grew up from, because it grew up in the marketing space, this customer 360, heavily market, focused on the marketing CDP activation space, which, like you said, if you look at the other competing products in the space, it lacks in activation targets and things. It's great if you're just in the Salesforce ecosystem. If you go broader, it's, you know, it struggles. It's certainly got some powerful other things that we can talk about. I actually see it, interestingly, coming from a core side. There's a lot of value in for core outside of just the marketing as well. You know, one of the things that Marketing Cloud has been relatively good at doing is shuffling and moving around fairly large amounts of data. Whether it should be doing the amount of work that some people has it doing, that's another question. But, you know, to throw 100 million records at a table in data in Marketing Cloud, while it might be a bit slower, it'll do it. It'll churn through it. You can do some pretty large, wild things. If you go to the core world and Salesforce CRM, if you say let's put 100 million records somewhere, you'll just no, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
not good at
of
doing
course.
that.
They tried different things for this, but didn't work out. Yeah. I remember a time we were working with the Heroku there and OData, and well, not
Yeah,
easy at the
they're
end.
hard. No, they're hard
but
words to play in.
they don't really use this strength when they're selling this product. And I find this a bit. I was talking with an yesterday. They were like, I think they're confused on how to sell this. I mean, um, the first time I hear, well, I think I found the sweet spot to pitch this. So you're still looking, and this is weird. You don't know who you're selling to, um, and what I think is, like you said, we have needs around large amounts of data, and this is the strength of this platform. It's dealing with these large amounts of data, and what they're pushing in their decks and in their business cases are activation use cases. Uh, and when you push activation use cases, selling data cloud, it's mainly, hey, look what we do with data, and then we push it to marketing cloud, and we do a great journey. Great. And so people in front of you, what they do is that they compare you to deselect and SQL, and they're like, okay, I can do this with deselect or and SQL or query or any other segmentation partner or solution for marketing cloud. And this is bad positioning because if you're talking about manipulating data in Salesforce Marketing Cloud to send emails, that's not what it's for. And I don't know if it's also because in their internal organization they use former Marketing Cloud AEs to sell Data Cloud. I mean, they use activation AEs to sell a data product, which is mainly not activation. And yeah, there's
And where you see it, where I see that the bigger value of versus other third parties, or if you're just going, I just want to do what I'm doing in Marketing Cloud easier, right? Like, if that's what you're trying to do, I argue that Data Cloud, it adds another whole platform. You got to get data in, you got to model it. It makes it harder before it makes it easier, right? So the big value I see with Data Cloud is much more. Again, at the moment, it's still, if you're in the Salesforce ecosystem, you're stacked because going externally, the activations aren't great. But if you have core CRM and Marketing Cloud, bringing that data in and working with it from, particularly if you've got external data sources, right? So I've worked at many organizations. You've got Snowflake, you've got, you know, your BigQuery stacks, S3
you've
data.
you've
If
got
you
that
can
data
then,
coming from a Magento platform website
yeah,
or something. Yeah.
and if you can then get that into Data Cloud, then the advantage starts to become, not only can you kind of do things and activate into Marketing Cloud, but you can also push and enable sales and service teams of the same kind of things. Or when you go, we calculate a lifetime value for Marketing Cloud in a campaign. Well, guess what? A sales team probably would like to know that on their contact or the account record, a lifetime value or purchases, which in your current stack, you probably pushing in via an SFTP link into Marketing Cloud. But again, nothing's surfaced. You've got these silos of data. I think Data Cloud, once you start to put that in as a central piece, you can now enable not just marketing account, but you can actually then enable the sales teams, the operational teams that sit in the CRM world off that same set of data. I think that's where the value starts to come. If you go, it's just for Marketing Cloud, I think it's going to miss the mark.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, and I think it's a mistake to couple it with Marketing Cloud. That's a personal view, but I think that the real strength is not there. What would you recommend for somebody that would like to onboard Data Cloud, and maybe is not, I'd say, a Salesforce insider, somebody coming from outside trying to uh, deep dive in the blue cloud world. Um, how do you onboard on Data Cloud? Before maybe asking this question, would you recommend to somebody to deep dive in Marketing Cloud today if they want to start in the marketing ecosystem of Salesforce?
If you were a blank slate that you didn't know, I don't think that's where I'd focus my efforts. And I think because the growth of that space is going to change. We've got Marketing
Of
Cloud
course.
growth coming in, new platforms, things are changing. I would certainly be, I think Salesforce is going to make Data Cloud work, right? They're selling it everywhere. They're putting big bets on Data Cloud working. It is a solid product. They're trying to find some market fit themselves. I am now seeing customers, so the customers and the people I'm talking to, they are buying it, right? They may not know exactly how they're going to get all of the value from it, but they want to start exploring it. So they're starting small, they're putting it in, they're coming with a couple use cases and playing with it. So Salesforce have invested too much time, effort, and energy for Data Cloud not to become a product that's out there and will work. So I certainly think that focusing in the Data Cloud space, if I was blank, because one, you are probably just as capable as the majority of other people out there. Not many people are really hands-on with it. Not many people have got projects under the belt. Therefore, it's much easier for you to go when the bar is here, you can come to here quite easily.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're going to the Marketing Cloud, we've got some, it's a complicated, product to get your head around. There's a lot of experts out there. Nobody's going to want to take you as a beginner in. But Data Cloud, if you get the right thing, start playing with it, especially if you're coming from a data space or understand how to do data modeling, understand a bit of SQL and things, I think you're going to have a better time or an easier time in with say upskilling in Data Cloud than maybe trying to go in fresh into Marketing Cloud.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was asked recently, where should I start in my Marketing Cloud journey, and I said, like, look at Data Cloud first. Maybe it's a better bet. So if somebody asks you, where do I start to learn Data Cloud, what would you say? So
It's getting easier. Obviously, there's trails on it and things. I think getting access to it is still a little bit more challenging. I don't know whether.
But mm, it's easier than Marketing Cloud.
Well, that's true, and it will get easier, right? Because there's sandboxes are coming out soon, which once they've got those concepts, which means they can spin them up easier and everything like that, then those worlds will be easier, and I think they will start to give access much easier, especially because if you think from Salesforce, they need people to know it. They need people to get their hands on it. So it's in their best interest to make it as easy as accessible. So I think in the pretty near future, it's going to be easy for you to get on. There are trailheads on it. There are a lot of people doing a lot of content and YouTubes and videos around Data Cloud. And I think once you can understand some of the core concepts, it's not that hard to start to wrap your head around. I think people that come into it fresh, if you don't understand what it's doing, it's not just kind of like a bit of data here, a bit of data there. There's process that goes on. I think once you understand some of those, it's not too hard a platform to start to get your head around.
Yeah. Um, just before jumping to next subjects, there's a couple of questions from Anthony there in the chat. The first one being about what are the most common data sources connected to Data Cloud in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, the probably the two sources, but these ones are probably obvious, will be Marketing Cloud and core Salesforce. So remembering that Data Cloud itself has no data in it. It's not core Salesforce, it's not Marketing Cloud. So the sources that come in to bring in all of your marketing based data, as well as your core Salesforce data to work with. I think as core sources, the connectors, I've seen more and more with Snowflake, because more and more organizations are adopting Snowflake, especially in the more enterprise and the larger worlds. There's a lot of data that can be unlocked, and it is very easy to connect Data Cloud to Snowflake. I've done multiple webinars on doing it. Showed it live and things like that. It's really easy to get data from Snowflake in, so these data lakes. And S3 as well is another way of
Yeah.
getting. I mean, they're not the end sources, but they're your mechanisms to to get the data in.
Okay. So, and apart from MC, second question from Anthony, what other activation targets are commonly requested by clients?
You might even be a better one to answer this one in terms of the activation, and that's a bit more in your space, especially in your ad space and everything like that. I mean, my worlds generally revolve a little bit around about the targets being Marketing Cloud and core Salesforce, which I think is a highly underrated target, because it's also one of the targets that other platforms struggle to do well. So if you start to talk about other CDPs or other activation tools, the ability to take these types of data and then update and action in core CRM is where they don't do it well. And Data Cloud is very good at actioning data from Data Cloud into core CRM.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about this because when you see Salesforce presenting their activation target, they're doing a job like this. Here you have Marketing and Commerce Cloud, and here you have ad audiences with our solution with Meta, Google, and Amazon, and here are third-party partners, ISV partners on the App Exchange marketplace, and they always forget this sales and service cloud, which could benefit a lot from the work we're doing in data cloud. And I just don't get it because I was just watching their slides yesterday and I was like, why don't they talk about giving back data to core as an activation target? And yeah,
Yeah,
I think
and
that's
and
missing,
it's
and it's
about,
natural.
yeah. Yeah, and because there's lots of things that it's quite good at doing in terms of aggregating. So often when we're in the Salesforce space, we're in a B2B space. So we've got an account with many contacts we're working with, and aggregating concepts of contacts and rolling them up to accounts, and then actioning at a account, at an account-based marketing or account-based selling. Again, when you look at other products that grew up in the marketing space, generally they're B2C products. So when you go to the account based selling and things, they really lack concepts of aggregation to account level.
Yeah.
It's a particularly good thing that Data Cloud is good at, and then actioning into core CRM.
Yeah, and also use cases. I think use cases are missing around B2B2C also. I mean, like when you're in hospitality and you have guests which are business travelers, and the paying part is a company and a travel manager. So basically, you're working with companies, travel managers, and who comes to your to your rooms are guests, which are other people, and so when you want to score some companies based on the guests you host, and you need something like Data Cloud because doing it in Marketing Cloud would be horrible, or maybe you do it in a Snowflake, but it's for immediate use. So yeah, Data Cloud makes sense there, and they don't show it. And That's a pity because I think they also had some vertical offers for hospitality, for example, and I didn't see this kind of use cases, which would be relevant for a lot of customers there.
Yeah, I see, particularly because Salesforce on the core side again have all of the industry verticals now. So they've got a lot of industry verticals which have pre-built data models and things like that. And this is where I think the maturity of the product will eventually get there, where you don't have to spend all of this time doing all these data mappings and working out what types of aggregations make sense and things. When they can get to the point where you go, well, you've got the automotive cloud, and all of a sudden you've got everything pre-mapped in data cloud, doing some really nice attribution modeling and things to enable marketing, that becomes a really interesting space, because now you can, rather than them just providing core platform technologies, which Salesforce have always been pretty good at doing, when they can start to go, all right, you've got the cloud, your automotive cloud, and your and you can have that all pre-modeled and working. That's when the worlds get quite interesting, I think. And
Yeah,
when their pieces start to come together.
yeah, and maybe that's also where you have value. I mean, in the because there are use cases you will I think they always compare the value to what would we what you gain in doing some things, but there are some use cases that you just don't do because you don't have time to manipulate data in that ways. So it's like a blue ocean there, and they don't tap in it. I
And it's
think
similar to
Anthony
where our products, I mean, our products have grown up in that same space, right? As in,
yeah.
they're they're things that people can do, but they don't have the time, energy, or money to go about doing it all themselves. And that's when these products can come in and solve those gaps and niches. Um,
Yeah, and maybe there's a last question from Anthony about would it be valuable for a company without Marketing Cloud to use Data Cloud? That's an interesting one. Thank you, Anthony, for this one. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I think we've been talking about that exact scenario in our thing. I think, as in a previous company that I was at, that was the recommendation for Data Cloud. Was not that there wasn't value for the Marketing Cloud space, but the big value was Snowflake was a large untapped source of data that people wanted to see as sales and service in core CRM. So there is an amazing pipeline with Data Cloud that can live query, say Snowflake, bring that in through Data Cloud and activate it out with very little work and a very easy pipeline. So, long story short, I think there is enormous value in Data Cloud for customers that have just CRM and core and not marketing, or the marketing use cases aren't enough. Maybe Marketing Cloud's already doing enough of what it needs to, but they've got, again, the key thing is other external data sources. That's where Data Cloud kind of needs to step in. Is if you've got external data sources and you want to surface that into core CRM, then there's definitely value. And I think, again, this is the maturity of the world, is those source connectors out of the box are still limited. I think once they evolve and you can go, you know, Magento is a source that I can just point Data Cloud at, bring that through Data Cloud with click based, and then surface that information straight into CRM. That's when I think you really start to go, there's something really powerful there.
Yeah. So I think we covered a bit about Data Cloud. Um, Now I'm gonna ask you a personal question. What's your story with MC Connect?
So that's our baby that's grown up out of, like a lot of the products, like I think, your products as well, you know experience and pain and things that you want to do, or customers have want to do over time. And I think that's where the best products generally evolve from, because they're real life experiences, real pain. So ultimately, MC Connect Toolbox has grown up through a lot of scars and problems with core Salesforce and Marketing Cloud and the standard Marketing Cloud connector, which tends to be okay at surfacing your Salesforce data, your contacts and your leads over into Marketing Cloud, but it is terrible at really surfacing any of that insightful information in a good way back into core and the core CRM world. And I think every customer I was at, we had the same problem. Either you have them turned on, but it's consuming way too much data storage in Salesforce, or you can't see the real engagement, or you're running mobile connect with SMSs, which means you're blind, you can't see any of that. So, and
Yeah, I think the mobile connect use case is the most painful one on the getting data back to core. Yeah.
and so when you run into those problems enough times with enough customers, you end up deciding that maybe there's something there that needs to be solved in a meaningful way.
So how did you start your product? You began customizing things with customers. When did you realize you were building a product?
So I didn't realize that there was something there necessarily to solve in the earlier days. They were kind of just limitations, and people would either just accept the limitation or it's too expensive to fix, or it was interesting. It wasn't until the last company that I was at, and they'd spent enormous amount of time, energy, and effort solving all of these, a lot of them. And so I saw how the worlds can actually work. And it was like, wow, okay, these worlds can actually work a lot better. And interestingly, as the tech layoffs were happening, year and a half ago across everything, this organization had the same set, large amounts of layoffs were going through. And I was like, well, if I was laid off, what would I do? And I've always wanted to get back, I'm startup product world. I've been there before. I said, I'd love to get back into the product world. So maybe if I was made redundant, laid off, then, maybe I could, so what would I do? And then it kind of hit me in the face. It's like, well, there's this glaring, problem that a lot of people have, and anybody that's solved it has done it ad hoc. Somebody's thrown an automation here, somebody's thrown a bit there, but nothing in a repeatable, proper way, nothing in a productized way. So I decided to give that a crack. Now, I actually wasn't made redundant, which made it awkward because now I had this idea, vision, something I
So
wanted to.
no, you're the guy thinking plan B before you need a plan B. But
That's how it was.
that's great. So you weren't made redundant, and
So it was an interesting conversation. Thankfully, I had a very supportive organization at where I was, and had a conversation with my manager, and they are very supportive of side projects and things like that. And so he didn't want to lose me, because obviously after you go through big redundancy, it's hard to hire people back as well. So if you lose a good resource, it's hard to get them back. And so anyway, I ended up going part-time. So I wanted to take it seriously, which is kind of the combination between the risk of no salary and going out completely on your own, versus you've got some salary coming in and you get to work on something. So I went part-time for about 9 months, working on it, on the side part-time, till I got to a point where it was there enough. I proved it out enough people were interested that I bit the bullet and said, okay, it's time to go full-time, which was a nice way to do it.
how did you find your first customers? Did you start with the customers, or did you build the product completely and then looked for customer?
So I think so. I went with building the product first because I already knew so much about what I wanted to solve. And this is probably not the right way necessarily to go for everybody if you're in a domain that you're not sure of how well to play in. But the other reason I did do that is I didn't have a timeline constraint because I was part-time. I was enjoying doing a part-time on both sides. I just and you'll know this, there's a lot of learning curve. Like, even though you're building on these Salesforce and Marketing Cloud all the time, there's a big difference between that and building an ISV-based product, packaging, app exchange. So there's a lot of learning curve that came in with that. So I spent quite a lot of time on core fundamentals of making all of those mechanisms work before really heavily focusing a lot on functionality of the product,
Yeah.
which so I kind of started on the product because of the way everything evolved. It's not something I would recommend to everybody. I had I had floated the idea enough. So what I had done before I went to that is I did do a couple core things. I had discussed with enough people to know that there was a problem that was worth solving that people wanted. Now, I did not know whether people were willing to pay for it or not. I hadn't. There's a big difference between would you take this up? I gave it to you, or would you hand your credit card over if I was to give that? And they're two very different things.
Yeah, and also how much would you pay,
Yeah.
and what are the consumables, and the pricing is a whole story there. But let's get first to you launched. Um, what were the first feedbacks you got on this product?
So the way I did it, and I think it was a good way. So my first customer was a pilot customer. We kind of known each other, a guy called Chris Pearson. We knew each other a little bit through LinkedIn. I put out a post saying, "Hey guys, everybody, this is kind of what I'm working on. Is anybody interested just to work with me and kind of do some piloting?" And he was particularly interested. He's been fantastic. He still works with me all the time. We still engage. But I just basically started with a just free, just take it. There's no money on the table at the moment. It's I need somebody that I can
Yeah,
work with, give me ideas,
real
just
data.
you've got to start somewhere. Real data.
Yeah,
And the problem is, and you'll know this exact same thing, is you've got to scale with volume. And it's very hard in your playing environments and demo
exactly. Yeah,
environments. It's so different to when you throw it to a customer that's at scale. And he's at a particularly large scale, which was a great way to. The first thing we did is we installed it, we put it in, it didn't work. It timed out. At his volume, the API calls weren't working. Data views are slow. Like, so straight away, it literally didn't work. And you wouldn't want to be doing that with your first live customer that you're paying.
yeah, of course. Great.
um,
Yeah, I think that it's something we lack, where we when we ask for sandboxes to develop and think, we lack data. I mean, we're supposed to create products that are going to manipulate large amounts of data, and we just don't have it. So so yeah,
no,
you
we
end up
don't.
testing with the
Yeah.
first. Yeah,
Yep. And so you need a very understanding first customer, pilot customer,
of
So
course.
the first part was just about engaging and working with them and getting feedback. And because you need to work out what of your features are going to actually resonate with people. And I think some of my first value propositions really aren't ones that I even talk about anymore, because they what I thought was really important is not, and the things that I didn't think were that important actually are the really important ones. And you only learn that out through feedback and talking with people.
Yeah, what we were talking about positioning about data cloud is the same thing for every product. I mean, you think about where you position your product, but the real positioning is where your customers position you. So how they see you, and this is quite different. So the way they see you, some features that you didn't that you just overlooked because it's not that important are really the core things they want. So
Oh,
yeah.
and, and
So
and it's
will you
learning.
show us?
Yeah. So yeah, and to that point, it's learning again, having features that people say that's really nice, that looks good, is very different to I need that because of the value and are going to give. And so for me, I was very technical. Oh, the email addresses don't sync and things, and people like, and I thought that was important, and people like, I don't, yeah, cool, yeah, I like that. But when you start to then talk about compliance, risk, around, you've got no visibility to the actual emails you're sending. These are big things. And when you talk to customers about that, then that becomes, yes, I'll pay, because, we have to have that for government compliance and things like that.
Of course.
But let's have a
Yeah.
quick look. Let's see if that works. Does that come up?
Yeah. Just add into stream. Hey, do you all see it? Just looking in the chat. If just put a thumb up there in the chat if you see the screen of Matt, just so that we know we're okay.
I think it's come up in the middle of my screen, so I'm going to assume.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're sitting in the core. So like I said, Connect Toolbox is primarily about surfacing a lot of this information back. So for instance, if we go into a contact record in core Salesforce, we get a whole lot of visibility over here. So we've got drag and drop components, lightning components in the Salesforce world that can show, again, like we talked about, visibility into all of the SMSs, responses, emails, bounces. We've got full activity history around what they've done, why emails have bounced. So obviously, some big questions that a lot of customers have had is customers call up, agents, why didn't I get this email? To what they go, well, I don't have no idea. I'll call the marketing team. They rummage through Marketing Cloud to try and find out why. So surfacing things like reasons things hard bounced and having them visible over in the CRM side of the world. The SMS obviously is a big one. So at the moment, the current Connect has no visibility into the SMSs. So being able to see what has been sent. Interestingly, responses as well, not a lot. Well, depends on how much you're leveraging responses with Mobile Connect. I would tell you, it's very funny when you start surfacing the responses that customers are actually responding that nobody's looking at. You're sending out, event reminders about an event, and when you start to see the responses people are responding back to your SMSs that you didn't realize they're even responding back to, can be eye-opening and quite interesting.
Yeah, you reminded me of a story like 15 years ago. I was working with a telecom company, and we were sending SMSs, marketing SMSs, and we were receiving answers on a computer that was just behind my desk. So what I would do is that every month we would do an extract of this, and I would ask one of the campaign managers to do like a snapshot of the answers, and the most funny ones, because there was a month we had to comply with the regulation, and we got a lot of insults there. So I found it really funny. And another month, sometimes you have people just answering the last SMS, and they just mistake the SMS, so they want to answer their wife or their kids, and they send you the answer. And that was really fun. I mean, surfacing the answer, it's nice. And
Yeah.
you could say, well, that's funny when you show your. I'll let you finish your tour, but just Matt, when you show your app, don't people just like, why does MC Connect doesn't do this?
So it's one of the hardest, often first thing that people come to me is, the thing I got to have an answer to is, why do I want to pay a third party to do something which Salesforce should already do? The reality is, I agree with you. I've been with many customers before where I've had the same thing. The reality is, there isn't, they haven't, and it doesn't do some of these things that we expect it to do, which means there's a gap. Now, on the contrary, what I do say though is, I've spent a year and a half, we've spent at Lightbox Logic, a year and a half building out just that. So the reality, the end result, and you'll be the same, I think when third-party vendors build very niche focuses, they'll end up building a better product and a better solution than what Salesforce, even if they did. Marketing Cloud Connect, it's even the stuff it does push back is it's not in a very good way. So even if they filled the gap, it wouldn't be in a great way. So yes, I agree too, but at least we've solved it and you can have a solution to it. And I think it is a very good solution. Once you put this in place with Marketing Cloud, I think the end result is actually a very good joined together platform once you kind of see this in this way.
Okay, great.
And so, for instance, things like, emails. So normally the best thing you might be able to get with Marketing is a little thumbnail of the template with no personalization, no anything. So being able to actually capture and get, for instance, the actual email that was sent to Amanda. And that's a big compliance one for a lot of customers because they need to have those. If they're sending out policy informations out of Marketing Cloud, they have regulatory reasons that they need to often keep this for 7-10 years. And the reality is they're not and they can't. So again, those types of functions.
Yeah, that's
I'll give you a
awesome
little.
that you get the personalized version. That's great. And
What,
yeah, I'll let
mm,
you go.
I was just going to give you a sneak peek. This is a not a lot of seen this yet of what we've done with Mobile Connect as well. Is actually full conversational reply, requests and replies. So what you can now do is on your contact record, you can actually go, hi Amanda, let's set up that meeting for next week, and out via Mobile Connect will send this ad hoc message and they can respond, and in real time you will see, and you can have conversations from within CRM via all of your Mobile Connect. So the great thing with that is there's no additional costs in any of them. For a lot of customers, they've already got Mobile Connect, they've already got SMS credits. You can now leverage all of that with some great capabilities straight from within Core, which is again a feature that Salesforce Core doesn't really have, is SMS capabilities. So it's a great way to leverage your Marketing Cloud from Core as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. You launched it or not yet? This one.
We're about to go into pilot with
Okay,
our first customer
great,
next week with it. So
awesome.
that'll be good. Again, for from a product side, the same thing. That we're very much about getting betas out, getting things out, getting the feedback. Already it's like, well, we want to be able to send an SMS to a small bulk of 10 people from Salesforce without. So and it's about prioritizing those features and where you want to spend your time. But
Of
yeah, we're
course.
pretty excited about that one.
Great. Awesome. So, and how do you see your product evolving with all what's going on with Data Cloud? And
It's a really good question, and a question that will evolve over time, I think. So right now, even with Data Cloud, there's a lot of gaps in even being able to do what we're doing here. So you know, even with the timeliness, so this is all real time. So you get all of this in real time. Again, even with Data Cloud, if you get some of these in, it takes time. SMSs don't come through very well in Data Cloud. So there's lots of gaps, even if you have Data Cloud as well. But
Mhm.
the space is evolving with Data Cloud, Marketing Cloud growth. What this will look like in 3, 4, 5 years' time, we don't know. The plan with Lightbox and Connect Toolbox is basically to evolve with them. So we're already looking, for instance, at a couple of components to work with Data Cloud. So one of the components is for segments. So having the ability as a component here to surface the segments that people have been put into in Data Cloud. So for instance, what segments in Data Cloud does Amanda Smith belong to? And surfacing that into CRM, or different,
So
Data Cloud
what we
doesn't
were
work. Yeah,
talking earlier about using sales and service as activation targets.
exactly. So the idea is, how to dynamically add somebody into a Data Cloud segment and starting to work with Data Cloud on some of it. So Data Cloud is going to have gaps with, there's going to be power between them. So the idea is to evolve as Data Cloud evolves and help bring, because I think what I see in the future is right now this is solving I've got Marketing Cloud, I've got CRM, and the gap is now going to start to be, we're going to end up with a triangle of four. We're going to have Marketing Cloud, CRM, and Data Cloud. Now, those worlds are evolving, but there's plenty of gaps in terms of those. And we're working with customers now that are starting to put into Data Cloud. And for instance, the segmentations come out of customers like, we want to see from CRM who's in what segments. Data Cloud's over here, CRM's over here, and that's not an easy thing just to stitch together. So the idea is, how can we make really easy components, drag and drop, that take minutes to implement and put in place, and you don't have to do large, complicated things to make some of those views and those things work together.
Great. That's awesome. And what about WhatsApp and unified messaging?
So yeah, so in beta we have WhatsApp and push as well. So for mobile, so you cross channel. So again, all within the same activity component, having WhatsApp, push, SMS, everything all visible and usable in there.
Okay, great. You have WeChat too? Oh, you're in Australia. You're not far from.
It's yeah. So we're not looking at adding channels that Marketing Cloud's not supporting. We're more because I don't think Marketing Cloud has WeChat really
Well,
yet.
the question was more about if a company is using like a custom channel, would you be able to retrieve this data?
Well, I think we've kind of talked about this in terms. So one of the ideas of the vision of kind of these activity components and things is it's designed to be a doorway into a summary version, because we've got a lot of data we're trying to collect from a lot of different areas, and what's meaningful. So for instance, in Salesforce, you might want to surface these things on a case or an opportunity. So when you're on an opportunity in a sales process, what makes sense to surface about these systems and these? So the idea is to try and work and tailor these. So for instance, if you've got custom ones, we're working with the customer, a prospect at the moment, where they have a completely separate system that has API access to call. So we're allowing the activity timeline that you can put your own API call. So long as you can
Great.
return, we can query
Yeah.
by, say, a contact ID, get some data back, then we can actually call as many things. So for instance, with Cesium, is this contact in any advertising journeys that might live in another system, and be able to surface those kind of things in. So that's an exciting part that we're kind of, looking at.
Great. Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this on a separate conversation, but yeah, that's true. What I wanted to do now, I think we're just on time. Maybe just to finish, what would you advise newcomers in the ecosystem in terms of how to run your career and how to I'll keep that in mind about you, Matt, how to have a plan B always ready.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time in the ecosystem. I think you have to be, as much as, do we think AI is gimmicky or isn't gimmicky and large data? That's up to you to decide. But there is no doubt that every organization is thinking about it. Every organization, whether they're acting on it or not, it is in their mind of how they're going to leverage it. I think everybody needs to be upskilling in that space in some form. Salesforce, there's a lot with Copilot, there's a lot going in the marketing space. How much people are going to use some of it or not, but to have a lot of those core concepts down, I think between Data Cloud and upskilling in that, I think while maybe it's not a right now that you're going to get 10 job opportunities in that, it will
Yeah,
be. And I think in the near future, if that's not an area you're starting to upskill on, I think you're going to quickly fall behind what the next set of all of the projects that are going to be happening and what's going to be happening is a thought that I've got.
yeah, I completely agree with you on this. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for your demo. Thank you for your insights. And thanks to all the people that followed us live. I'll post this soon on YouTube. And have all a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Really enjoyed. Bye.